Okay, well, thank you for joining me. This is Make Better Decisions with Google Analytics. So we'll get started with part one, which is Introduction to Analytics. So during the first part of the class, we'll discuss what data is and how we use it to drive our business decisions. Then we'll talk about the basics of setting up your Google Analytics account and how to start collecting data from your website. And then later we'll review some more hands-on tips, such as adding goals into your account. So I just kind of want to give you a heads up of where we're going. We're going to talk about utilizing analytics in the best way with creating goals and outlining what goals, without goals, we don't have any basis to understand if we are really growing our business. Based on these goals, we need to ask the right questions based off of a potential customer's engagement with our site. And then armed with these questions, we can then go into analytics to choose the right reports with answers to those questions. And then we'll gather data to gain insight to make informed decisions with our business. So that's where we're going. Got this quote here: data makes your briefcase heavy, insights make you rich. What this quote serves to remind us is that getting data is not the problem anymore. We have a lot of data. If you're already using Google Analytics, data on your web presence is already being collected as we speak. Google's opportunity with analytics is to take this huge amount of information and make it manageable for people and to enable people to interpret it. We need to find interconnections, patterns, themes, and build in context for genuine understanding. The ultimate goal is to provide actionable insight so that you can use it to prove or disprove a hypothesis. But first, we have to understand what insight is and how we should approach it using analytics on any platform. We should always look to analytics to better understand our business and the goals we are trying to achieve. If viewing reports is not enough, you also need to know what you're looking for. So an insight is hard to define. Insights help you create more effective business solutions using strategies informed by real consumer truths, whether they're brand strategies, creative ideas, product innovations, or media plans. The trouble is that everybody defines an insight differently. What is clear is that when people look to Google for help for finding insights, they're not just looking for data, they're looking for something that's novel, credible, and actionable enough to help them unlock opportunities. A great insight is unexpected yet obvious, and insight must be able to inspire action. So Google does offer insights in their reports. We'll talk about how to access reports later and where to get your insights on those reports. Before we go any further, we need to define some terms. Data is any information you obtain from users like demographic, behavior, and activity. And a user is someone who visits your site. Analytics are patterns and trends discovered in data. It's how you make sense of it all and uncover meaningful trends. And insights are the value gained from data and analytics. Insights should be actionable and prescriptive. In other words, they need to help you know what to do next. Data can show that you have 1,500 site visits in the past 30 days. Analytics show you that you had 30% of those people who visited your site on a mobile device. And insights reveal that visitors using mobile devices are making 60% of the conversions on your site. And a conversion is some sort of activity or transaction being completed in your app or on your site. If you're new to data analytics, it can be a little bit overwhelming to look at the reports in Google Analytics. So we'll look at ways to use the data to help you make decisions instead of just relying on your gut instincts. And this involves using the tools and to see patterns in customer usage. Before you dive in, let's talk about goals. Ideally, your website leads a person from one page of useful content to the next until they convert or do some sort of activity or transaction on your site or app. Building personalized experiences start with good data. Spend time with your user data and site analytics to find opportunities to customize experiences for users that drive additional value. For example, consider the points that are here on the slide. Learn which search terms and sources drive the most traffic. To remedy a high bounce rate and a misalignment between your visitors and your content, examine in detail your visitors' interactions with your pages, the nature of your traffic, and why those visitors are arriving at your website. I'll talk about this later, but a high bounce rate in Google Analytics could also just be because you haven't set up events and goals in your Google Analytics account. See demographic information for your most profitable customers. Look for useful ways to segment your users. Rather than designing one experience for everyone or the average user, look for distinct groups that might have different wants, pain points, or behaviors. You might also begin to understand the characteristics of your most profitable audiences. Understand what content your audience is most interested in. Evaluating your traffic can help you identify who is and isn't finding your page content to be useful. It can also drive your decision-making when it comes to content you decide to highlight on your website. Evaluate which channels are driving the most conversations. Understanding where your traffic comes from and what drives this conversation on your website will help you to make smarter advertising design decisions.
Can I ask a question? The channel, how would you describe or define channel?
A channel is I guess a viewing point. So, Instagram and Facebook, I guess, are different channels.
Okay.
A website versus an app.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so let's talk about signing into analytics for the first time. To start collecting basic data from your website, you would first need to either create a Google account or sign in to your Google account with analytics. So you can start at the link on the slide, g.co/analytics, and then either click on the blue button in the center, start for free, or go up into the top right corner and click sign into analytics with your Google account. Then you'll want to set up a property in your analytics account. A property represents your website or app, and it is the collection point in analytics for the data from your site or app. Likely, you'll be setting up a website. And then you can access Google Analytics either on a computer or you can download an app on either iOS or Android. So I do want to mention that when you set up a property, sorry, I didn't mean to slide that like that. When you set up a property, there is a change that Google recently made where you want to click show advanced options in like this start a property menu, and then click create universal analytics property. And you'll want to choose between creating both a traditional universal analytics property, which is the one that I recommend, and then they have this new one that I'm not going to be able to cover in this class, but it's called a GA4 property. So you can create both, or you can create only a universal analytics property. And the reason that I mentioned that this is important is that in order to get the tracking information that you need on your website or app, you need something called a tracking ID. And the GA4, like the new one, doesn't have a tracking ID. And if you don't do that advanced setting, you're not going to get the option to put in your website in the previous fashion, which means you won't get a tracking ID. You'll get something called a measurement ID. So Universal Analytics is shortened to UA, and then the other one is Google Analytics 4, GA4.
Quick question for you. Do you find nonprofit organizations are using this? Is it designed for and nonprofit or primarily for businesses?
I think Google Analytics is applicable to everybody, whether you're for-profit, nonprofit, whether you're a student, who has a website who's job searching. I think it can be useful on any website.
Great, thank you.
Yes. So in a UA account, you would normally find your tracking ID by going into your admin section and then clicking on your account column, and then next to it there's a property column, and then below inside your property column is a setting called tracking ID. If you're in the GA version, you're not going to see the tracking ID. What you'll need to do is you'll need to set up a data stream. When you set up a data stream, you can choose either Android, iOS, or website, or both. And then in that section, you get a measurement ID with your stream ID. And the GA4 is configured a little bit differently. Some of the features I'm going to go over later aren't available in it. So that's just something to kind of be aware of right now. I think Google's shifting, and this class wasn't updated for kind of that shift. So just a heads up. So then once you have either your tracking ID or your measurement ID, you'll want to copy and paste that into, if you're using a content management system, that would be something like Squarespace or Wix, for example. You'll paste in that tracking or measurement ID into that website that you're building there. Or if you built your own website from scratch just with HTML, you'll want to program in something called a global site tag into the header of every single page on your website. So Google doesn't collect any data until this is set up. So you want to do it first thing. Questions about that? All right, let's meet some new friends we're going to make today. Eva and Ricky. So there is a dummy account that you can use with Google Analytics from a link I've got here on the slide. I will send that out with the materials to everybody who signed up today. So Eva and Ricky are small business owners who sell apparel through their new online store. Up until now, Eva and Ricky have been making the most of their business decisions through for their e-commerce business, either from their own gut instincts or advice that they've received from past customers. They decided to set up Google Analytics to get a better understanding of what is and isn't working in their online store so that they can make more strategic decisions. Sometimes making a decision on a gut instinct works great. However, many decisions could see improved results if data supported them. For example, Eva and Ricky would like to experiment with a new t-shirt design and then immediately add it to their website banner without collecting data from the audience on the need or desire for those designs and styles. So you can see their banner in the slide here. When sales were down for a particular item, they would put it on sale. Instead of cutting prices when sales were down, Eva and Ricky could have instead boosted visibility by advertising or trying different promotions using data to see if that helped. When Eva and Ricky started their e-commerce business, they assumed that their customer base would be primarily women between the ages of 35 and 44, and used that to drive their marketing initiatives without collecting data. For your own business or website, here's how Google recommends that you get started. First, outline your goals, which would be the customer actions that you care about most. Decide which outcomes you would like. What do you want to improve? For example, one example goal might be increase web traffic by X%. What questions do you need to ask? What information do you need to know in order to achieve that goal? Quick tip, the question we ask about offline advertising campaigns can often apply to. And third, determine which tools and reports can help you get these answers. So let's talk about outlining the goals. There are many types of goals, like a simple example that we mentioned before, increasing web traffic by X%, but is that goal meaningful? Try the SMART framework that I have here on the slide. Is the goal specific and detailed? Can you track the goal? How will you measure it? Is it realistically attainable? How will you know when you've accomplished it? Will this goal help you reach your business goals? Is it relevant? And at what point do you want to have achieved this goal? Set a time frame. I'm sure you've heard that before, but I do think it's kind of like a good reminder to have. So Eva and Ricky set a goal for the merchandise store to decrease shopping abandonment carts, to decrease their shopping cart abandonment to under 60%. They used analytics to find out how many users were adding items to their cart over a period of time, and they compare that number to the total transactions during that same period of time to measure this cart abandonment rate. As time went on, they made modifications to their checkout process to try to decrease that number. With incremental change, they reviewed those numbers to see the effect. Ultimately, they were able to drive down cart abandonment to under 45%. Different sites might have different goals: online orders, leads, engagement, etc. So what are your goals? Goals in analytics measure how well your site or app fulfills your target objectives. A goal represents a completed activity called a conversion that contributes to the success of your business. Defining goals is one of the most important elements of using analytics. Having properly configured goals allows analytics to provide you with critical information such as the number of conversions and the conversion rate for your site or app. Without this information, it's almost impossible to evaluate the effectiveness of your online business and marketing campaigns. So we'll talk about how to add them to your account later. And again, I know I use the word conversion a lot here, but a conversion just means some sort of activity completed on your website. So what are your goals? For current business owners, think about the existing goals you might have for your business that you want to monitor and measure with analytics. For those who haven't created your new website, what purpose do you think your website will serve? What conversion goals do you have based on the actions you'd like your customers to take? So feel free to, write these down if you have a pen and paper. We can take a couple minutes if you want, or we can just keep moving. It's up to you.
I'd say keep moving.
Okay. All right, next we'll talk about asking questions. The framework you see, reach, engage, convert, sustain, represents stages of a business's relationship to customers. You can ask questions and use answers to move customers through these stages. First, reach customers with methods like advertising, organic search, social media, offline promotions. You might already know that. As they arrive, you need to engage them. How do they find what they're looking for? Then you want them to convert. The goal is to help visitors complete an actions on your site. For example, they might buy a t-shirt, or they might submit a form with a bulk order, or they might sign up for your newsletter, or they might read one of your blogs. Ultimately, you want to sustain long-term relationships and get customers to come back. This could mean a rewards program or discounts. All right, now we'll talk about reports. So reports and analytics, if you click on the home button at the top, you just click in the left-hand column on these different words that I'm about to mention. So earlier we learned about how to set up Google Analytics account, but now let's look at the reports that can help you answer the questions you have about your audience. When you look into analytics, the homepage gives you a summary of what's interesting about your data. The cards will show you information like overall traffic and conversions, users, revenue, conversion rate, sessions. You can click on a metric to change the graph. The number of users on your site right now, the overall conversion rate, the channels at which you acquire users, and sites by geographic location and user volume by hour. You can create custom dashboards by clicking on customizations.
So I have a question for you. If I've, which I've done before, gone online thinking I was going to purchase something, leave it in a shopping cart, and then not come back to it, basically Talbot's or someplace that I might have been online for is using a tool like this, probably maybe more sophisticated, and then circling back to me and saying, didn't you forget something?
Yeah, sites do that.
Would they be using something much more sophisticated than this, or
Not necessarily.
no?
Google Analytics is pretty sophisticated. I know that there are competitors out there, but it's hard to compete with free. So
Sure. Yeah. Interesting.
So let's look at the different types of reports available in Google Analytics. You can see the categories on the slide. We've got real-time, audience, acquisition, behavior, and conversions. So it can be a little daunting to look at the first time. You see all these, charts and graphs, and it can be a lot to look at first. So the real-time report shows the impact of your marketing efforts in real time, immediately and consciously monitor the effects that your campaigns and site changes have. Audience reports provide insight into characteristics of your audience, such as demographics, interests, geography, language, behavior, technology, and devices. Acquisition reports provide a window on your users' ABC cycle, acquisition, behavior, conversion cycle, basically how you acquire users, how people come to your site, behave on your site, and the actions that they complete on your site. Behavior reports tell you about behavior that varies between new and returning users of your site. And conversion reports talk about the completion of an activity that is important to the success of your business, such as signing up for your newsletter, reading a blog, or making a purchase. Real time shows the impact of marketing efforts in real time, immediately and consciously monitor the effects that campaigns and sites have, especially when you make changes, you can see those. Determine if new and changed site content is being viewed, determine if a one-day promotion drives traffic, monitor immediate effects of site traffic from a blog or social post, and monitor completions as your test site changes. So Eva and Ricky's business may have had the benefit of media coverage. When this occurs, it can be difficult to measure how that may affect traffic spikes on the site. So this information allows Eva and Ricky to prep the site for possible traffic and forecast potential orders. From the beginning of their business, Eva and Ricky used real time to measure the traffic spikes as media coverage ran. As they collected historical data, they were able to compare it to the number of orders while factoring in the reach of that particular exposure. Now that they're able to accurately predict how many orders and traffic spikes to expect when they have an upcoming media release or radio appearance, depending on the size of that audience. So reach questions that the report can answer. Do they have the correct name, address, or phone number published online on your site? Is the website address easy to remember and type? If you have a newsletter, do people open it? Do they read it? Do they click through it? So who is your audience? How are people searching for you? How are they finding you online? So Eva and Ricky's online merchandise, right, back to their store. If the goal is to increase online orders 10% this month, they'll want to know how are people finding them online. If people can't find you, they can't place an order. Okay, so audience reports. They provide insight into who your audience is, such as demographics, interests, geography, language, behavior, and devices. Business owners may have preconceived notions about who their audience is. Eva and Ricky actually found out that their audience is men ages 25 to 34 instead of primarily women from 35 to 44. So how does Google determine demographic information? When people are signed into their Google account, Google may use demographics derived from the settings or activity on Google properties. Depending on their account status and settings, consumers have always had the ability to edit their demographic information at adsettings.google.com. So I'll have a link here that I send out that talks about demographic targeting that Google does. It's support.google.com/Google-ads/answer, and then there's a number here / I'll send it out with the slides if you're interested in learning more about their demographic targeting. Acquisition reports provide a window on users' acquisition behavior conversion cycle that we mentioned earlier, how you acquire users and how they behave on your site and their activity patterns. See where traffic comes from with acquisition reports and how channels perform. Eva and Ricky use acquisition reports to find out how people are discovering their online store or finding them through search. With this report that you can see in the screenshot on the slide, they can see different sources of their traffic to include organic search, social media, and paid search. They can also drive into the site control overall content strategy, Google Ads campaigns, and advertising affiliate content. Next, engagement. The engagement report help us answer some of these questions. What do people do once they find you? Where your customers engage online, and how do people interact with you online? Can they easily find your products? Do people create accounts at checkout? Do people download coupons? Do they navigate to more than one page of your website? Do they watch your videos? Do they search for things on your site? Do they download PDF spec sheets? Do they look at your menus? These are all engaged questions. Behavior flow reports visualize the path users travel from one page or event to the next. It helps you discover what content keeps users engaged with your site to identify potential content issues. FYI, you might not have set up the event tracking before they appear in your behavior flow report. I'll talk a little bit more about events later. But the more organized you are about setting up your event tracking code, it'll be easier to use the behavior flow report. You might have set up content groupings before they also appear in the report. Eva and Ricky use behavior flow to help guide them through any changes to the merchandise store that may affect the conversion or activity funnel on their site. It gives them a great view into the path people are actually taking on their site so that they can identify any areas of efficiency to improve. This can be especially useful because how you think people view and use your site might not match the way you set up your site. So it's always kind of interesting to look at how people actually go through a website and kind of how that informs your design. Convert questions. Conversion turns a site visitor into a paying customer. Convert questions help you find out how or if that happens. Once people find you online, are they taking further actions? Do they purchase? Do they schedule appointments? To meet their goals, Eva and Ricky can ask how many online orders did they receive last month. Think about what other convert questions they can ask. Is it easy to order from your online store? What social media channels are driving the most sales? Would coupons or sales help increase orders? So Eva and Ricky use conversion reports quite a bit for their merchandise store. When they make a change to their site or their products, they want to make sure that it has a positive effect on conversions. You don't want to guess. They grab a report from the recent period, make changes on their site, and then see how the changes affect or don't affect their conversion percentage and their overall average order value. For example, they start offering video messages to customers. This allows the customer to upload a video message to a gift recipient that will be texted or emailed to the package recipient when the parcel service delivers it to the end person door. It offered a cool way to add a personal touch from the gift giver, but it required an extra checkout step. Whenever you add a step, you risk decreasing conversions. People don't want to go through 20 steps of checkout. They design the step to be as efficient as possible, making it easy to skip and quick for someone who does want to use it. With each iteration of a feature, they measured the conversion percentage and adjusted accordingly. Other conversions you can measure include newsletter signups, forms submitted, appointment books, or orders completed. Sustain questions. The sustain report turns customers into loyal customers who continue to interact with your business. Sustain questions help you understand what customers say about you online. Do they like your products or services? Do they wish you did better, etc.? To meet Eva and Ricky's goals for the merchandise store, they might ask, what are people saying about my business online? Think about other sustain questions they could ask. What colors would they like to see in t-shirts? Who are loyal repeat customers and how can I reward them? Within your audience reports, the behavior report for a new versus returning user can be helpful for you to gain valuable insight into the sustainability of your audience. If Eva and Ricky see that new visitors to the merchandise store are spending far more time on their site than returning visitors, they might decide to incentivize first-time visitors to return later. They could offer a coupon code to shoppers after they complete their first purchase. This data could give insight into issues with their website or content that may prevent customers from returning as well. So what did Eva and Ricky learn? By using Google Analytics, Eva and Ricky discovered that most of their gut instincts, which drive business decisions that they were making, were actually incorrect. Their top audience was 25 to 34-year-old males, not the 35 to 44-year-old women as previously expected. They also discovered that most of their traffic is coming from organic search, not paid ads. So maybe their paid ads weren't working, or maybe they had the incorrect search terms. Lastly, they were able to see that most of their purchases are from brand new customers and first-time visitors, not the loyal following they previously assumed that they had. So how can Eva and Ricky make better decisions based off of what they learned? Right now, if the website that they created is designed to be relatable to their assumed demographic, they may need to make website design changes. This may affect their ad strategy as well, both audiences they want to target to in the future and promotions and imagery that they might decide to use. This data can be an indication of product changes they might need to make to better tailor their merchandise to a female audience as well. If maybe they're only reaching men because maybe their merchandise isn't applicable to the audience that they were trying to reach. By understanding that most of their traffic is actually coming from organic search, Eva and Ricky might want to review their search queries and update their ads for more effective search terms. They may also need to reevaluate their paid ads if they're proving ineffective. Eva and Ricky also learned that most of their paying customers are new visitors to their website. They may decide to offer a loyalty program or promotions to past customers to encourage repeat business. As we can see, Eva and Ricky learned a lot about their target audience and how to form their future business decision just by looking at the data within analytics. So this is kind of a pausing point before I talk about adding goals to your analytics account. Do you have any questions?
Do they have some kind of a library of questions by category to suggest, or is there some reference material that way that's available?
I don't have that exactly. I will send out a dummy account so you can kind of go in and kind of look through Google Analytics. You can't like play with it really. It won't let you make any changes, but you can kind of go through and kind of, you know, just kind of see some of the features that I've talked about so far.
Oh, that's great. That'd be helpful.
Anything else? Okay, well, I'm going to continue on then. So now we're going to talk about a couple of tools. So now we'll move on to focus about how to set up goals and events in Google Analytics, as well as the goal types you can use to gain more valuable insights about your website. We'll discuss using the Google Tag Manager, which I'm not going to go into in depth. We don't have time for it today, but I will link to a class that you can watch on your own time when I share the slides and the recording. Then we'll go into primary and secondary dimensions and how you use those tools to get a more in-depth view of your data. Okay, so back to talking about goals, except this time we're going to add them to your Google Analytics account. So here's the directions for doing that. You'll want to go into your admin section, and then you'll want to go into your property, and then next to property, there's a third column called view. And again, this is only the UA Google Analytics property type, not the GA4. So then you can click on new goal under this view, which is the third column there, to add a goal to your account. You can have up to 20 goals per reporting view. To track more than 20 goals, you'll need to create an additional view on that property. Okay, so there's three options when you're creating a goal. The first is a goal template, which is designed to help you set up actionable goals that meet standard business objectives. You can edit any template field before saving the goal. Goal categories, revenue, acquisition, inquiry, and engagement are the largest business objectives that might motivate your goal template. Use them as an organization tool to help you think about the purpose of your goal. With the custom goal option, you can select the type and determine the values that best fit the action that you need to track. The third option is called Smart Goal. Smart goals are quick and easy that you can set up based off of your linked Google Ads account. If you have linked a Google Ads account, all you need to do is select Smart Goal from the goal types list and then type in your goal name. Let's discuss what types of goals you might set up for your business. Every website owner will have a different goal for their business, and these goals may change over time, which is why you can set up as many as 20, and you can also go in and edit them. So if a goal becomes no longer relevant, you can go in and change it. So they fall into one of four types. Destination goals focus on a specific location loading. For example, your goal may be that a customer sign up for your newsletter. In that case, the goal conversion on your website would take place when the thank you for registering page loads on your website. Duration goals focus on a session that lasts a specific amount of time or longer. For example, your goal may be that your readers spend at least 20 minutes on your website blog pieces. In that case, a conversion would take place when they've spent at least 20 minutes on the page that is indicated in the goal. Pages per screens per session goals. A page per screen per session goal will consider the specific number of pages or screens visited by a customer in one session. For example, a visitor loaded 5 pages within your site or app. Event goals are focused on when an action defined as an event within your Google Analytics account is triggered. We'll talk about setting those up in a moment. These events are items that you can add. For instance, you might want a visitor to click on a video or click on a link to your social media, and that would trigger the event of the completion goal. The different ways in which we can use goals to better understand our conversions include purchases made, subscriptions, signups, page views, clicks, and form submissions. Ask yourself, what are indicators of a customer taking specific actions that you want them to take on your website? Next, we have events. So we have our goals ready to rock, but it's important to understand that our goals usually represent the end of a journey. During that journey, there are certain interactions that are important to us as a website owner. Google calls these events. Events are user interactions with content that can be measured independently from a web page or a screen load. Downloads, link clicks, form submissions, and video plays are all examples of actions you might want to analyze with events. These may not be the ultimate goals for your site, but they do offer great insight into what users are interacting with on your site. Events offer great benefits on single-page websites or websites that might have a high bounce rate on certain pages. A bounce rate is measured in analytics as a session that triggers only a single request, such as when a user views a single page on your website and then exits. They came to the site, they didn't do anything measurable, and they left. They bounced. Many people with websites ask, why is my bounce rate so high? Why are people bouncing without doing anything? The truth is that they could be doing exactly what you want them to do, but analytics doesn't know because you didn't set up event tracking for those specific actions. Some user interactions by nature give them all they want without going anywhere other than the home page. For example, a visitor might scroll all the way to the bottom of your blog piece and then leave. They came, they read the article they were interested in, and they left. Without event tracking, the visit would be recorded as a bounce. By simply retracting scroll depth as an event, you now understand that this particular visitor read all the way to the end of your article and now you have reliable insight into the interaction. To see data in your event reports, you need to add a code or site to collect event data. This is called the Google Tag Manager and can be tricky for those who aren't technical. So Google Tag Manager is a free tag management system that allows you to quickly and easily update measurement codes and related code fragments, collectively known as tags, on your website or mobile app. When a tag manager is installed, your website will be able to communicate with the tag manager servers that establish triggers that cause your tag to fire when certain events occur. For instance, someone scrolls to the bottom of your homepage or clicks on a video. I will send out a link. Unfortunately, I don't have time to kind of go over everything Tag Manager, but you can also just Google search Google Tag Manager Google Analytics Academy. It's analytics.google.com/analytics/academy/course/5. So that's the website. Using events. There are lots of ways that you can use events to gain insight on your user interactions. Let's take a close look at our screenshot that I've got here up on the slide. The top event is the quick view click, which is simply a product preview that doesn't take you to another page, but instead offers additional details and pricing information when your user clicks on a product image. Normally, this interaction would not be tracked, but because it was set up as an event, we can not only see that people are looking at products, but also what products are getting the most previews by customers. Other examples of valuable interactions that a business will be interested in is engagement with embedded maps. If a user plays or pauses a video or a tracking form has an error, you can see which fields in the form are creating the most errors. And this is helpful in simplifying the user experience on your website. You can ask yourself, do I really need this field in this form that most people on my website are struggling with to fill out correctly, or can we make this process easier? Okay, so that was all of my planned content. I do have additional slides that I can go over if you guys would like to continue. There are something called dimensions and then something called segments in Google Analytics. Do we have any questions so far though?
I don't.
Okay, I'm just going to keep talking then. We've got another 10 minutes or so. Okay, so dimensions. If you've already set up a Google Analytics account, it's likely you're already using dimensions. You maybe just haven't noticed it yet. Dimensions are different attributes of your data in Google Analytics. For example, the dimension city indicates the city a user session originates from, like Chicago or New York. Other dimensions could be the device or browser used to access your website. Each report you view offers the primary dimension for which you can view or use data. Sometimes the primary dimension isn't enough, and you might want to view your data with more granularity. That's where a second dimension could come into play. This allows us to add another dimension into our current report to give it more depth in view on the data that we are currently analyzing. In this example, we're using a location report under the geography section. We've narrowed it down to just showing Texas as we are looking to make some decisions in our current marketing efforts in Dallas. The primary dimension offers great insight as to how many users we acquired during the selection timeframe, but it doesn't tell us where those users came from. We can view which channels are driving traffic to our website in Texas by accessing the secondary dimension in the dropdown and selecting the source/medium dimension. Now we can see not only the city, but what source or medium is driving the most traffic in each city that we are viewing. Using filters, we can take our already detailed data to the next level. Remember that I want to focus on the source of my website traffic in data, my website traffic data in Dallas, but we could still see other cities in Texas. If I type Dallas into the filter and I click the search button, I can now see just Dallas, the city we want to focus on. Clicking on Advanced allows me to use the advanced filter functions like multiple filter criteria, exclusions, and regular expressions as needed. Segments. Dimensions help you better understand your data by diving deeper, but now we'll discuss segments. Segments help you to analyze and understand trends of your business by setting up a subset of your data in Google Analytics. To build new segments within your report, click Add Segment at the top of your report page. See in the screenshot. Click the red button labeled New Segment, give the segment a name that will be easy to remember, and populate the criteria that will define your segment. To save the segment for later use, click Save. Segments are subsets of your analytics data that can isolate or analyze and respond to the trends in your business. For example, let's say you own a merchandise business with an online store. Of all your site visits in one segment might be users from a particular city or country. Another segment might include users who only purchase t-shirts. What can you do with segment data? Let's say by looking at segment data and customers in a particular geographical location, you notice that the specific group is no longer purchasing hats from your merchandise store. This may give you insight that leads you to figure out that another business in your geographic location is also selling hats with similar designs at a lower price. You could change your designs or your pricing strategy to compete with that location. You can also use segments in your remarketing. For example, you can create a segment of users who only purchase from your kids' t-shirt pages, and then target them with remarketing campaigns that only offer new items or promotions to kids. The default segment for analytics is all users, which allows you to view your data for all users at that site. There will often be times that you want to focus on a specific segment, subset, or segment of that data. You can use filters for subsets of users, sessions, or hits. Subsets of users include consumer activity on your website, such as users who have previously purchased or those that added items to their shopping cart but didn't complete the purchase. Subsets of sessions include interactions by a single user that are grouped into sessions, such as all sessions originating from a holiday campaign or all sessions where a purchase occurred. Subsets of hits are interactions during a session. Hits can include page views, events, and transactions. An event of a hit includes a subset of sessions that resulted in revenue greater than $15. You can utilize the standard system of provided segments to view or even compare data from the different subsets of your user base. In our example, look up here on the slide, we are viewing data from several traffic sources, source segments, as well as users that made a purchase at the same time in the demographics overview report. We can clearly see that our top age group is the same across all traffic sources, direct, organic, and referral traffic, as well as those who made an actual purchase. This helps solidify some assumptions that were made as to who the target group is for our website. All right, so that was a lot. Anyone have any questions? No? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then I'm going to show you how to get to the event comment form on our website so that you can leave me some feedback about how I did today. Tell me how you heard about the class and what else you would like to see from the library. So just give me one moment.
And you're going to follow up to send us things, or we should pull things off the chat?
I didn't put anything in the chat because it didn't let me copy it. I'm going to
Okay.
send it out in an email after the class once I
Wonderful.
get the recording, probably sometime probably on Saturday.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Have you found the Google, this application to be of much use for the library?
I am not in charge of that, so I don't know.
Okay.
So here I am at the Lake Forest Library website to
Yep.
Access the comment form that I'm talking about here on, website, or sorry, on library event feedback. I want you to scroll to the bottom of our page, the very, very bottom, as far bottom as you can go. And so there's five columns here. We're going to look at the left-hand column, which is titled Contact. I'm going to click on the last thing in the column, Message Us.
I'm sorry. You're going to need to go a little slower. You go down to the bottom and then where?
So I'm at the Lake Forest Library website,
Yeah,
which is
right.
lakeforestlibrary.org, all the way
Right.
at the bottom.
Yep.
Far down as you can go, there's 5 columns: Contact, Modified Hours, About, Meet the Team, Support.
I see.
In the Contact column, there's our address and then our phone numbers, and then there's something that
Okay.
says Message
I
Us.
see. Okay, great. Okay.
So click on Message Us, and then under Message Us, there's 4 columns. The one I'm looking for is specific requests. So there's live chat, general inquiries, specific requests, call or email us. Under specific requests, the third link is share your feedback after an event.
Okay, great.
So feel free to go ahead and fill that out. Tell me how I did. Tell us what you want to see from us, etc. All right. Just want to thank everybody for coming today.
Thank you.
I hope
That was not easy to get through all of that. I appreciate it a lot.
It's a lot. Not gonna lie, it's a lot. Yeah, I'll follow up after the class and feel free to reach out to me if you have questions later. So I'm gonna end the session. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.